welcome to a special video edition of the Success in Trucking podcast. Hello again, everybody. I'm Greg Thompson. Thanks for connecting with us. In this edition of the podcast, we'll be talking with Jason Williams, the president of ES. Jason is also a member of the board of directors for the Women in Trucking Association. We'll be going to the first part of our conversation with Jason in just a moment. One of the topics that we'll be covering with Jason is the news that ES will be launching an online transportation market analysis series focused on the needs of contract drivers, owner-operators, and fleet owners. This news series, which ES has entitled Insight 2020, will also seek to reach out to professional drivers who are looking to become truck owners. Insight 2020 will be offered free of charge to anyone who would like to participate. The program will be offered through a variety of online platforms, including videos, podcasts, virtual meetings, and social media engagement. While the specific topics and the contributors to the online series are in the process of being determined, ES officials are working with the fleets and the vendors within the ES community to develop content that will offer expertise and insights that can speak to what's happening in today's rapidly changing transportation market. Now, folks, among the topics that we know will be on the agenda for Insight 2020 will be the ongoing effort by ES to grow small businesses and truck ownership opportunities for women. Now, here's a fact that will give you a sense of the commitment that ES has made to creating opportunities for women in the trucking industry. And here it is. The owner-operators, independent contractors, and fleet owners in the programs from ES now make up nearly 40% of the ES community. The 150 Business Challenge, a collaborative initiative between the Women in Trucking Association and ES to create 150 women-owned businesses in transportation, has played a significant role in driving some of the growth that ES has seen in recent years. Initiated in November of 2017, the 150 Business Challenge has helped to launch nearly 100 new trucking startups as a result of participation in the program. The 150 Business Challenge offers an attainable path to financing as well as operational and business support for women who have an interest in a career path within the trucking industry. Qualified participants in all of the ES ownership programs have access to competitive market rate financing with a credit evaluation process that places an emphasis on attitude, aptitude, work ethic, and work history. Now, folks, in the coming weeks, ES will have more details on the specific programming that will be available through Insight 2020. In the meantime, you can get the latest by going to the following web address, essuccessintrucking.com. That's essuccessintrucking.com. Now it's time to bring you the first part of our Success in Trucking podcast interview with Jason Williams, the president of ES. We talked with Jason by phone on April 8th, shortly after ES had made the decision to launch the Insight 2020 program while moving the Success in Trucking Expo to next year. The 2020 edition of the site had been scheduled to take place during early June at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Complex, but as you guys will hear in our interview with Jason, the COVID-19 national emergency made the move to 2021 the most practical option for the Success in Trucking Expo. We began our conversation with Jason by asking him about how the ES community had responded to the national emergency with COVID-19, and we also got his thoughts about how the trucking industry had risen to this moment in history in its response to this national emergency. Jason, let's talk a little bit about the COVID-19 national emergency. It's on all of our minds, and I wanted to get your perspective on how the ES community has responded to this and how the trucking industry has responded to this.
When you talk about the ES community, we have two sides. You have the office side of it and our people and how they've had to respond to continue to service the community. And then you have the community's response. And so it's been pretty amazing to watch as we have had to get people into their homes, set up with offices, work online mainly. And the level of focus and communication and their attention to detail has been pretty amazing. I was concerned. We've never done that before. We didn't really encourage work from home just because we felt like we needed everybody in the office in order to support each other and make sure we were providing a good service. but our folks have really stepped up, hyper-focused on the individuals in the trucks and at what's in front of them, and they've done a phenomenal job of keeping the service level up. In fact, we use a survey called WorkHound, and our driver satisfaction or contractor satisfaction, owner-operators, it's going up. We're actually getting better marks now than we were beforehand. So I think some of it, while nobody would want a crisis of this nature, has brought out the best efforts in a lot of people. Same token, you turn and pivot to the fleet, and we've seen the same thing. Retention has actually picked up. Our owners are producing. They're staying out there. We've seen in-service and load acceptance go up for both, whether it be drivers or owner-operators. It's just a phenomenal response. People are realizing that the country needs their support, and they're doing it. You know, Greg, it's always amazing to me to watch in times like this when just everyday normal people get to be frontline soldiers, so to speak. We are seeing that response, and we're seeing people who are very much in support of their country, in support of their neighbor, in support of the community as a whole. They're putting forth a great attitude with a great service. It's just something, again, nothing you'd want to go through. You have to kind of sit back and watch the response of the individuals, the people, and be proud to be a part of it and amazed by just the grit and the determination that just common folks like myself and yourself will find and push through and do things that they didn't really think were possible. So we've seen a tremendous response from the community.
And Jason, when you talk about the way that the entire ES community has come together, it's not surprising that your folks and the fleet have responded in this way. Can you talk a little bit about how the industry has responded and how folks are now looking at trucking? This whole crisis, again, this is not something we would ever wish to happen, but it's really shined a light on the entire trucking industry and the essential nature of what the trucking industry means to this country.
Absolutely. I think people once again realize that trucking is a profession. It's not something that just anybody can do. It's a lifestyle. And most people, to be honest with you, don't have the endurance or just the grit to do this for a living. That's not putting any other profession down, but trucking is a tough industry. You have to be very much self-driven. You have to be self-reliant. It's problem solving all day long. People driving in traffic. Of course, we all know those things about trucking. It's a dangerous profession, and it takes a certain mindset to do it and do it well. And so I think the nation is beginning to realize that the trucks they're passing up and down the road, that this is truly foundational for everything else that goes on. I think that you're seeing some pride of the profession come back within the industry, which is a tremendous thing. People ought to be proud of the job they do within trucking. As far as the industry as a whole, we're seeing some great support. You know, we have some great partners in our community like Loves and TA, and we've seen these two vendors continue to keep their facilities open, keep their showers open, keep their laundry rooms open. Things that when you live in a home, you don't realize how essential it is to have those things for a driver on the road. And I shared this with someone just the other day, Greg, that there was a survey shared with us that our fleet was a part of. During this crisis, the number one fear that people over the road had, drivers, owner-operators, fleet owners, the number one fear they had was being left alone or stranded, that they couldn't get into a shop, that they couldn't get fuel, or they couldn't get the necessities. And so when you talk about having vendors in your community like a Loves, like a TA, you've got people who recognize that they meet those needs. They've increased their employee count. They're keeping their facilities open by investing money and keeping it clean. It really just boils down to our businesses willing to invest the money in order to keep these things going. They've done it. That's allowed us to continue to stay open and operate. That's allowed the trucking industry to continue to operate. You know, as far as an essential service, most people wouldn't probably pick that as one. But the job that those two vendors have done to allow trucks to continue to stay out there, operate over the road for weeks at a time, without them, you just couldn't do that. We've seen the industry respond in some phenomenal ways. The people that we're working with and that we've chosen to be partnered up with, whether it be our motor carriers like FedEx Custom Critical, Panther Expedite, which is a division of ArcBest, or Forward Air Freight, those motor carriers, we're seeing them continue to do a phenomenal job, continue to find ways to get freight on the truck, being aggressive with keeping people's businesses moving at the truck level, working with us to help people in and out of orientations, even though they can't come on site in certain states because of the shelter-in-place mandates. Just being very creative, very nimble, well-run organizations. Again, the vendors we work with, some of it, Greg, you don't really know how good you are till you get thrown into the deep end. I've been extremely pleased and proud of the way the community as a whole and the people we've partnered with have responded. We're just pleased that we've been able to hold it together and continue to move forward during this time.
Speaking of moving forward, Jason, as you know, organizations, companies, everybody in this country has had to change the way that they work and they gather. And one of the big events for ES this year on your calendar is the Success in Trucking Expo. And because of COVID-19 and the concerns about gathering crowds, ES has made the decision to move the event, which was going to be held at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on June 5th and 6th of this year. You guys have decided to do the safe thing and move the event to 2021. But as we were talking about earlier, one of the things that has come out of this is a new way to approach things. And what ES has done here is very exciting. You are going to start the Insight 2020. It's coming soon, so tell us about the decision to move the site and start Insight 2020.
The decision to move the site out, the physical event, was pretty easy with Indianapolis Motor Speedway having to shut down their events. And then the crisis continuing to move forward into the year. We just didn't want to take any risk with any people. At the same time, we also knew it would be a strain on businesses, even if by that time we're past the actual pandemic, that it would still put a strain on people's businesses to shut down and come to an event. So with that being the case, the team, led by Jeff Tacker here, came up with an idea that says, look, let's do a virtual show. Let's attempt to still get the information out, let people know this is what we do every day, let them know the opportunity is still real. In fact, it might be more real now than ever, because with pressure on businesses that's going on right now, some people are not prepared for this kind of a disruption. The businesses are having a hard time moving forward. So there's opportunity on the backside of this for those who can take advantage of it and start a business and come on in and service the country, service this industry. Just this month, Greg, we'll finance people into a truck and start their own business. I think we did 3 or 4 last month. So even in this, it's not the numbers that we would have wanted to be building up to, but even in this environment, we've not lost focus on who we are, nor have we lost focus that there's still individuals out there who can prove their mettle during these times. And so we're continuing to move those ideas forward and not losing that focus. By going to an Insight, it will be a virtual expo. We'll do that online. And I got to tell you, for me personally, I'm only 43, but I'm as technically advanced as probably a 90-year-old. And so the team's really come up with a great idea and a great way of getting the information out there, of engaging the industry, engaging individuals, allowing people not to lose this year, because that's really what we want to make sure we don't do. It's not about a show. It is about helping people move forward. We don't want to lose the year and just say, well, let's kick the show to 2021, and that's all it is. It's not a show. It's people starting businesses. And we do not want to lose their efforts or our efforts for a whole year. And we don't plan on losing that. So we'll find a way to get this information out there, engage people into the community, give them the opportunity to learn us, know who we are, us the opportunity to get to know them, and then see if we can identify those that we can help start their own business and do it in 2020. We know things are rough. We know that there's a lot of chaos out there right now, but there's still individuals who can take advantage of this opportunity to move their own business forward, move their own careers forward, and we plan on helping them do that.
You're listening to the Success in Trucking podcast, powered by ES. We'll get back to our interview with ES President Jason Williams in a moment. Right now, we would like to talk to you about Expediter Services and Insight 2020, the new online series coming soon from ES. As you heard Jason Williams discuss during this podcast, Insight 2020 will be focused on the needs of contract drivers, owner-operators, and fleet owners. This series will also seek to reach out to professional drivers who are looking to become truck owners. Insight 2020 will be offered free of charge to anyone who would like to participate. The program will be using a variety of online platforms, including videos, podcasts, virtual meetings, and social media engagement. While the specific topics and the featured contributors to the online series are in the process of being determined, ES officials are working with the fleets and vendor companies within the ES community to develop content that has the ability to offer insights and speak to what's happening in a rapidly changing transportation market. Insight 2020 will be coming your way very soon. For the latest details on Insight 2020, please visit essuccessintrucking.com. That website again is essuccessintrucking.com. Now here's more about the scope of services and support that Expediter Services brings to the trucking industry.
Expediter Services is the place you ought to be. The more you learn, the more you earn. We treat you like family. Well, you can start off small and grow real big, or stay where you are driving your rig. Expediter Services is the place you ought to be. We've got the programs to save you cash. We've got support to get you there real fast. Expediter Services is the place you ought to be. Expediter Services is the place you ought to be.
To learn more about the ownership opportunities, specific programs, and the comprehensive support available through ES, please visit essuccessintrucking.com. That website again is essuccessintrucking.com. Now it's time to return to the Success in Trucking podcast, powered by ES.
Welcome back to the special video edition of the Success in Trucking podcast. Hello again, everybody. I'm Greg Thompson. Thanks for staying with us as we continue our conversation with Jason Williams, the president of ES. We began the second part of our interview with Jason by discussing the approach that ES takes to building relationships and how the Insight 2020 online series can begin to start conversations that will introduce people to the ES community. Jason, one of the hallmarks of the ES programs is the fact that you guys work at it as a conversation. You guys work to build relationships. When you look at where we are now with all the digital outreach that's happening, Insight may very well be a perfect forum for you guys to start those conversations and continue the conversations to introduce people to the ES community.
Absolutely, Greg. We tell people all the time, all we want to do is start a conversation. And that is the phrase we use, and that is the intent of what we're doing. We want to give you the opportunity to get to know us, and we want to have the opportunity to get to know you. And you can't do that through a hard sale. You can't do that through an 8-hour event. That takes time. It takes conversations. It takes trust. It takes relationship building. And that is what we're either trying to get started or we're trying to get to the end of it so we can help somebody move forward. We tell people all the time, we don't want them making a decision and betting maybe their life savings or betting 2 or 3 years of their life without full information. We share with them that we have thick skin. We want you to ask all the questions up front. Our only success is if the individual is successful. So as people get to know us, they realize that our whole house is built upon the fact that one person in one truck or a team in one truck, that they have to be successful. If they're not successful, we don't make any money. We don't make money selling a truck. We don't make money with the financing. The only way we're successful is with a good long-term relationship. A lot of programs are set up that once they sell you the truck or once they finance you the truck, they can wash their hands of the deal and they move on. We're not that way. We're joined in lockstep with these businesses for the life of that equipment. And we hope for the second piece of equipment and the third piece of equipment. We hope it's generational. So that is success to us. By going to an Insight, it is literally about starting a conversation, starting information to flow, starting people to ask questions, just trying to get to know folks and let them get to know us, and then let us both make an informed decision. Do we want to do business together? Our whole company's intent is built around getting to know people, making investments from our side upon trust and knowing who they are, and from encouraging them to make their investments from their side upon trust and knowing who we are.
Jason, one of the hallmarks of ES is that you guys are always monitoring conditions in the trucking market. Can you talk to us about what you were seeing in the market prior to the COVID-19 national emergency? What were some of those headwinds, and what are some of the indicators that you'll be looking at as we come out of this situation?
Coming out of 2019, we had most people were running a little on empty with cash reserves. We saw that the truck market had declined, so that a lot of the used equipment, if people were trying to trade in their equipment, that they didn't have the value they needed. So everybody was kind of looking to 2020 as a way to move forward as the industry to recoup itself. That felt like it was starting to happen in January, some of February. Some of those headwinds that have hit us now all of a sudden have been obviously with essential businesses shutting down, the motor industry shutting down, where whether it be they're building cars and all the people who supply things into the motor industry. That has sidelined some capacity. But we've also seen a lot of capacity go offline on their own with the at-risk groups within trucking. And you think about trucking being a fairly old labor market where you have a lot of people in 60 years old and over. I think that you've seen a lot of those individuals go home. So those that are staying in service, we really haven't seen much of a slowdown in freight per truck. The big boards have taken a hit in some regions. But as far as the motor carriers we're working with, it's not what you want it to be, but it's by no means a disaster yet. Maybe that's coming somewhere in the future. We're watching that weekly. But as of right now, again, we're still seeing people who are in service taking freight, putting up the numbers they need. Again, we financed 4 people into their business last month, and we've got some we're looking at for this month. And this is in the heart of this crisis. Are there headwinds? Sure there are. But to be honest with you, Greg, there's headwinds every year. Is this a historic moment in our country? Absolutely. Nobody wants to see times like this. We have people that we know who have gotten sick with this. We have people we've done business with who have actually passed from this virus. That's real, and we all have to take it seriously. We need to support the country getting through this time. But these times are revealing good, solid people, and there's a lot of them out there. There are some things that the pandemic is highlighting that you wouldn't know otherwise. There's some of those things you can build upon, some of those things you can fix and move forward as a company, as an individual.
Jason, as you noted, we are in extraordinary times. We're in the midst of a health crisis. We are seeing things happen in the economy that none of us have seen in our lifetimes, and we're learning more about our communities. And one of the things that we've talked about here is the strength of the ES community and the fact that one of the first things that you tell people who are coming into this community is that they will never stand alone. So as we close our podcast here, can you talk to us a little bit about the commitment of the ES community to stand with the members of the community and stand with the trucking industry? Because that is so important at this time.
Greg, we are committed to that. Again, it's the foundation of what we're built on. We've done things that honestly are probably stretching the company, the individuals within the office. Again, we've invested heavily into letting people be able to go home and continue to service drivers, owner-operators, fleet owners, and do it from their house. We've turned around. We've also invested in technology to allow us to capture data with the motor carriers so that we don't have to have paper processes. We've also engaged attorneys and some industry experts to say, hey, with the government stimulus package, whether it be the payroll protection program or the disaster injury relief program, what is it that our community can participate in? Make sure they get in line, because it's complicated and there's a lot of misinformation out there about it. So we've gotten the very best that we could, and they're as good as there is in the country, those experts, to represent our community and get them the information they need as businesses to make decisions. And again, that's the power of the community. So that's one piece of it. The other thing is strong relationships with vendors, where we have companies like Stoops Freightliner that is still working with us to help people as they want to upgrade, get value for their trade-ins, helping them get new trucks in. Strong relationships with Daimler Financial, where we can continue to get people financed. A bad thing or a terrible thing within the cycle would be if owner-operators and fleet owners were to hold off on upgrading, and then they come into a good season of freight and their trucks are not what they would want them to be. Maybe their R&M's higher than it should be, and so now they're giving their profits away to an old truck. Those are the things that we don't want to lose time on. We don't want to lose focus on. We want our community to continue to have those options to improve themselves and move forward. So when it does turn, and it will turn, I do believe that by the grace of God, this too shall pass. When it turns, you want to be ready. You don't want to be sitting there idle or having lost time worrying about things that you can't control. We are focused in on and giving the resources to our community to keep their business healthy, keep their equipment right, go through your normal trade cycles, do the things you have to do so that when this thing turns, you're prepared. Getting good legal advice, making sure you're prepared for those type of things. It's a holistic idea, Greg. I wish we could say there's one silver bullet that we just knock it out of the park on. I don't know if it's that as much as it is there's hundreds of little things that we push daily. Trucking is a very complicated business. It has assets and banks and depreciation and what's going on with oil and how's the freight moving. And all of those things affect one guy with one truck the same way it affects FedEx or UPS or J.B. Hunt. What we attempt to do is give them the same resources, the same data, access to the same experts, to the same infrastructure to make good decisions as a FedEx or J.B. Hunt has. And I can tell you, I would put our experts, our attorneys, our leaders inside this community, and some of them are in the trucks. Some of them are running fleets, within the community. Some of them are our vendors. I would put them up next to any company in the country and say that we could hold our own. We're proud of who we are. We're proud of who we do business with. We're proud of our community. So it's a holistic idea. It takes buy-in from everybody, but it is real. And in these times, it's something we hope we can prove without a shadow of a doubt to those that we are servicing, as well as those we would like to service. That we are who we say we are. We'll do what we say we'll do. We may not be for everybody, but we're honest in who we're saying we are and what we're trying to accomplish.
That's Jason Williams, the president of ES, with his final comments on this edition of the Success in Trucking podcast. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Jason for his time and perspective. Now, folks, we'd like to share one last reminder with you about Insight 2020. The online series will be coming your way very soon. We'd like for you guys to be on the lookout for the details on this online series that will be focused on the needs of contract drivers, owner-operators, and fleet owners. Insight 2020 will also seek to reach out to professional drivers who are looking to become truck owners. Now, as we've mentioned throughout the podcast, Insight 2020 will be offered free of charge to anyone who'd like to participate. The program will be offered through a variety of online platforms, including videos, podcasts, virtual meetings, and social media engagement. Insight 2020 will offer expertise and insight on what's happening in today's rapidly changing transportation market. For the latest details on Insight 2020, please visit the following website, essuccessintrucking.com. That website again is essuccessintrucking.com. And folks, as we close out this special video edition of the Success in Trucking podcast, Expediter Services wishes you safe travels on our nation's highways. And as our country continues to face the COVID-19 national emergency, we would like to remind you that in addition to staying safe, you take the necessary steps to stay healthy as you do the critical work of keeping the American supply chain moving.